Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Awesome 80s podcast. This is Michael.
This is Lawrence. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Glenn. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fantastic. Another bright, sunshiny. Oh wait, it's another overcast and just crappy day out here in the middle of Illinois, but it's still very nice. Everything, sky's the limit. Stay positive, everybody.
It's 60 degrees warmer than it was last week.
Yes.
So we'll take it.
It's downright tropical.
So we are here in the middle of Illinois in 40-degree weather, which is 60 degrees warmer than it was a week ago when it was negative 20. But yet we have a guest from the far, far off, warm, I'm assuming, land of California. Michael, would you like to welcome our guest in?
We're experiencing an awesome 80s special guest, Mr. Jeffrey. Is it Weissman?
Weissman.
Yes.
Did my agent tell you how to say it right? My agent said that you guys are a little late on the payment, the appearance fee. I'm not coming on until that I get the check cleared.
Hold on, Nathan. Will you? We don't have the appearance fee.
Do you still take PayPal? You can take PayPal? Do I have to?
I got PayPal.
Okay, good. We're in. Good evening to you, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm here. I'm great. How are you guys?
Wonderful. Now, say I'm just your average fan of the Awesome 80s podcast. I have no reason. Who's Jeffrey Weissman? I'm asking myself. I don't have IMDb at my fingertips. So who are you, Jeffrey Weissman?
I'm just a guy.
I would say you're a little more than just a guy.
You might have me in a photograph in some scrapbook or on your refrigerator from work I used to do as an actor. I've tried to diversify. I've worked at theme parks and Renaissance fairs and movies and TV and stage. So you may know me without knowing me. I'm one of those little-known celebrities, I guess. I don't know so much celebrity, but at least an actor.
Well, from my perspective, you are one Murder, She Wrote episode away from hitting the Lawrence trifecta of best things I love about the 80s, which are Back to the Future, Saved by the Bell, and Murder, She Wrote. So if you just would have nailed that reading...
No. I was on Diagnosis Murder. Not
Murder. I'm aware. But Diagnosis Murder comes on at 9 a.m. Murder, She Wrote on at 6 and 7 a.m. where I'm at right now. So that's all you needed, and you would have hit the trifecta. Now you've hit 2/3 of it, which very few people can do. In fact, I don't know anyone who is in both Back to the Future and Saved by the Bell other than yourself. So I think that's you're doing all right.
All right. Thanks. Good night.
And he's out.
That was a great guess, Glenn. That was a good guess.
So
how much money did you win? Oh.
So Jeffrey, let's start in the beginning of your career. Where are you from?
My mother.
That's true.
Good answer.
No, I was born in Glendale. I was raised in L.A. And growing up there, my folks, they weren't in show business, but they would rub elbows with people in show business. My mom actually, she bailed Lenny Bruce out of jail a couple times.
Awesome.
My dad would run these private clubs, and I remember actually going with my babysitter and meeting Omar Sharif before going to see him in what was it, Grand Prix, I think was the movie, Grand Prix or Le Mans. He was in one of those, and we were going actually to see the movie, and I got to meet him before I went to see him, and I saw my babysitter kind of flip out, and that kind of inspired me because I was enamored of her, and I thought, well, if he gets that response, maybe I should look into acting.
I could get babysitters all over to respond that way to me if I could become an actor, right?
Yeah, it really was inspiring for me. My dad was partners with Lauren Green in this club that he was at managing, and Don Adams, and various people in the film industry would come and play cards or backgammon or such at that club.
We've had several guests on from television and film, and almost every one of them said they did it. Initially, they got involved in it because they thought that it would help them with the females. So it seems that the love of a lady
just
always is the way.
companionship. Yep.
As it turns out, my wife was on stage crew. It was production I was in. When I was 14 and she was 12.
Wow. So there it goes. So you've known her for a long time. That is awesome.
So you did plays and you did plays and stuff as you were growing up?
Sure. Yes. In fact, my folks didn't want me getting into show business at all. They would let me do shows in school and community theater, and but they didn't really help me until I was like about 17 or 18, and they gave me a few bucks so I could get some headshots because they saw I wasn't going to give up on it. But as growing up, I would insert myself on sets. I remember, was it 69? I think it was. I think I was about 11, and I found an episode of the FBI was shooting in my neighborhood, and I just hung out there until I got to meet Efren Zimbalist Jr., and I recognized Monty Markham, and I remember one of the support actors coached me on my my report card. He said that D in mathematics will never fly. How are you going to know if your agent's cheating you? Things like this. It was really fun. In about 74, I think it was. I was instead of taking the bus home, I walked home from Santa Monica High School because I heard Mel Brooks was shooting at the Mayfair Music Hall, a new movie, and I sort of walked through and started seeing people in Victorian costume, and one guy's mustache was flapping. I said, "Sir, your mustache is falling off." He goes, "Oh, is it? Who are you?" And I said, "I'm an actor." Yes. What have you been in? And I said, "Well, I've done Merchant of Venice. I've done X, Y, and Z, but Dark of the Moon." And he said, "Really? Would you like to meet Mel?" I said, "Yes." And he took me to the set where they were shooting the Puttin' on the Ritz number for Young Frankenstein.
Oh, wow.
And the first actor I saw was Peter Boyle in this green makeup. I was like, "Oh, this is exciting. This is going to look great." And then Marty Feldman was the next actor I met, and I was very impressed. He was carrying a man bag. He was wearing a Merce. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was cool. Mel didn't have time for me. It's like, "No, not now." Anyway, but it was really thrilling to be on that set, and I just found no end of excitement for just being around film production. I started making movies with friends in junior high, actually, and then continuing. And in fact, one of my friends from junior high that I've made films with became very big in the makeup world. Tom Hester got the Academy Award with Rick Baker for American Werewolf in London.
Oh, wow. And
back then, we were using these ape masks that he got his hands on from Planet of the Apes and making movies with those. Anyway, so my heart's always been in it. Didn't really get going until the late 70s, and I paid a service that would help get me on sets as an extra in films like FM and The Rose and I Want to Hold Your Hand, which was Zemeckis' first film, I think. And I got brainwashed by Alice Cooper in Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
So you're in two different Beatle movies back to back? That's kind of cool.
I guess I was.
Okay.
I don't think any Beatles were in them, but
no.
It was just really fun for me to be on the sets. I remember while we were shooting FM, with Martin Mull and Eileen Brennan, we would have to get tickets to get our meals. I was like, "What's this all about?" Well, apparently some disgruntled Teamster was living on the back lot and eating with the crew and cast of films that we're shooting and beating up cleaning women at night, and I don't know. There's all sorts of fun adventures, and just being on the set, being in Martin Mull's aura at that time, or being around, Alice Cooper and Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. I remember you know, it was the Barry Gibb, going over to Barry Gibb at 7:30 in the morning, and I was like, are you smoking pot? And he was, well, it's mixed with a little tobacco. You want some? Yeah, sure. And you know, I'm, what, 17 or 18, and Robin Gibb comes over and says, hey, we just made #1 on Billboard with News of the World, I think it was. And I was the first to congratulate them. It was very exciting for me. And I really liked it, but I eventually, I would audition for things like still theater and such, and I went down to the Music Center, the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and auditioned for, I think it was a Neil Simon play, and was it Gordon Hunt, Helen Hunt's dad, or Gordon Davidson, one of the Gordons, said, you know, you got talent, but, you know, you need training. And I said, well, what do you recommend? And he said, Juilliard, or, you know, one of the Ivy League schools. And I said, what's on the West Coast? He said, ACT. So that's what I set my sights on. And I tried out a couple times for ACT and got in the second time, and finally attended ACT in '81 and got in, you know, when Annette Bening was just there, and really took the training to heart to prove myself. And that's when I fell in love with the Bay Area. San Francisco really is just an amazing city where people can be as freaky as they want to be and not feel too incriminated. Is that the right word, incriminated?
Did you have I'm sorry, did you have like an aha moment where you're like, this is it, like you're on stage at like sophomore in high school or something, and you're just like, yep, this is it. I'm going to put all chips, I'm going to put them all in, and I'm going to do this. I
had that early on. I was living in San Diego for a little bit, and I mean, I had moments where I was class clown doing history reports from whatever period we were studying, and doing it as a news broadcast and acting out scenes, or I did a show that, you know, first a variety show in junior high in San Diego and at Montgomery Junior High, and then got cast as the dragon, the timid dragon in this play, and the adulation was really wonderful, and though a lot of the older kids really despised me for being such a ham and getting all the attention, and that sort of carried on. In my senior year in high school, I was playing Daniel Berrigan in the Trial of the Catonsville Nine, which was a really good activist type play, storytelling, and my grandmother, who was English and had never come to see me in a show, finally came to see me in a show, and I couldn't wait to thank her for coming. And as soon as the curtain call was over, I ran to her, and someone grabbed my arm, and I looked over, and it was Jane Fonda. And Jane's daughter had gone to the same school, this alternative school in Santa Monica, and she said, you know, I really like your acting. And I said to her, I was like, and I love your acting, you know.
I really love Barbarella, by the way. Thank you.
Barbarella and Flute and so on and so forth. But I broke away and got to my grandmother and my grandfather, who said, hey, wasn't that Jane Fonda? I said, yeah. It's so good to see you, you know. And those sort of things encouraged me. I, in fact, wrote Jane a year or two later to get the recommendation letter to go to ACT, to which her assistant said, well, if Jane had time to help every young actor that she did. So I didn't get that letter from her. Anyway, I kept pursuing it, and to be actually blunt, the intermediate program at ACT, I didn't get along very well with the guy who was heading that up. I felt that he was a misogynist, and I was going to punch him for the way he treated actresses. And so the head of the school, John Pascoletti was his name, recommended that I take my intermediate studies at State University in San Francisco, which I did, and that's where I got to meet and work with Michael McShane from, you know, Whose Line Is It Anyway, and great films, and Greg Proops, and a lot of really fine talents. And while going to school there, I fell into an opportunity where Martin Brest discovered me and brought me to Los Angeles to Hollywood to screen test for the Leiden War Games, which leads to your first photo. I don't know if Nathan has that ready to go.
He is on it now. There you are.
Oh my goodness.
Now, what was the War Games originally going to be called?
Well, you may know that Martin Brest was not the final director on it. It was originally Martin Brest who had made his name. What was the great film he did? He directed with Art Carney, the old guys.
Sunshine.
Sorry.
Sunshine Boys?
Not Sunshine Boys. Anyway, he had Martin Brest had been on the project for a while, and he came on the project when Warren Oates was attached to it, and it was called The Genius. And unfortunately, Warren Oates died. MGM and UA merged, and executives couldn't agree on whether or not to keep the project going. But nonetheless, I eventually screen tested the same day as Eric Stoltz and Dana Carvey and a handful of other actors for the lead with Ali Sheedy. And it later got named to War Games and from The Genius. And Martin Brest unfortunately got released from the film, and John Badham ended up finishing directing the film with Matthew Broderick starting. And about a year later, I remember I got brought in to screen test for the film Lady Hawk, which Matthew Broderick ended up doing.
So he stole 2 movies from you.
Yeah, that's...
Okay.
Like I mentioned, I used to do Renaissance fairs, so when I read Lady Hawk, I fell in love with it. I was going to rock it, with my basic fair accent. I was, how now, my lady, and my these and thous I had down pretty well, and loved doing Shakespeare and such. And as it turned out, I don't think they cared about the accent. But yeah, it's, a few. Who knows what Providence would have had in store had I gotten those roles? I went up on leads on many films when I was screen testing for War Games. My agent, who had just opened her own agency out of the William Morris agency in New York, in Beverly Hills, she came and she opened a lot of doors for me. And I came close to being cast in things like My Science Project and Revenge of the Nerds and My Tutor and what was the one with Muriel Hemingway that Yvonne Passer directed? Not Cutter's Way. That's the film he did before. Anyway, there were a lot of things that I went down the line on, or it was between me and another actor. Example, Dana Carvey beat me out of one that I was dying to do with Burt Lancaster and Kirk Douglas, where the role was as their parole officer, and there's a big chase scene on a train. I was dying to do these films, but Dana had already done a TV series with Mickey Rooney and a stronger agent, I think, perhaps with more connections. I don't know. You never know what it was. Also, I could have shot myself in the foot by being too cocky. I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows? The innocence of youth. So, what was the first movie where you actually got some experience on? I know you did some, like you were in The Rose and movies like that, but what one did you feel like this is like my character?
Well, the first time I got a co-star credit was in George Miller's segment, the remake of Nightmare at 30,000 Feet in the Twilight Zone movie with John Lithgow.
Yes.
And surprised that I even had the audition for that because of the accident, the terrible accident on Landis' segment had taken place 3 months prior, and I was surprised they were even going to continue with that film. But Spielberg decided, that he wanted to finish the film, and so I went in and met George Miller and got along really well. He's just a sweetheart of a guy, and new to Hollywood at that time. He'd already had Mad Max in the can and was big writing off of that. And we got along wonderfully, and I really, the audition was telling a joke, and he liked my joke, and I got cast, and we fleshed out some lines in action as we went along because it wasn't all scripted yet. And I remember that was the one film, the first one that my parents went to and saw my name on the big screen, and that's when they gave me their total support. Our son, the actor.
Hey, everybody, have you met my son, the actor?
Even though it was a tiny, tiny part.
So
it was
Did you work with John Lithgow at all? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry?
Did you work with John Lithgow at all?
Yes. I'm actually sitting across from him in the film, and John is a sweetheart. We'd chat a lot, and I probably didn't send Nathan a picture of me with John, but or maybe I did. Do you have that, Nathan?
No, we don't have one with you and John.
Shoot, I thought I sent it. Anyway, nonetheless, he was great, and I really enjoyed being on that set. You had the shot there with Donna Dixon, who I became very friendly with on that, and later on gave her husband Dan Aykroyd, who she met at the rap party on that Twilight Zone. I gave him a picture of us together to give her, and he didn't like that, I don't think. It looked like Dan Aykroyd was a little, what are you doing giving me a picture of my wife? But Donna was a sweetheart, and Abby Lane, who was Xavier Cugat's wife, she was a sweetie. Charles Knapp, a lot of really great folk in that ensemble cast, and learned some wonderful stories. Milton Berle's brother was a principal extra on that shoot, and he told stories about Uncle Milty being kidnapped by Al Capone, which I thought was great.
Oh, wow.
Capone wanted Uncle Milty to work his nightclub, and Milton said, in Chicago, I got this other nightclub I got to do, and they kidnapped him at the airport at gunpoint until he played Al Capone's nightclub.
Oh, wow.
Memories.
Well, it's kind of cool you get that snapshot of like old Hollywood and how things were, you know.
Like this, there was a guy in the shot, I may have sent you a still, or you can find it online, of Lithgow's character being subdued, and I'm in the background of the shot, just looking over like Donna Dixon's shoulder or someone's shoulder. But behind me is another guy with a mohawk. The actor's name was Spaz Attack, and he was a choreographer and a stunt guy, and he had just come off working on Blade Runner, and he had a fight scene with Harrison Ford that got cut from Blade Runner. Just thought as an 80s trivia show you might like that.
That's cool.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of pictures that kind of go in order coming up. So what we'll do is we'll kind of talk about where you're at. We'll kind of go through some pictures here real quick, and then we can kind of discuss where you were at with them.
Sure.
This is your life.
So while that's getting kind of set up, so what happened after Twilight Zone?
I went up to San Francisco, of all places, to there's Twilight Zone, the cast there. You can see J.D. Johnston in the foreground, and Abby and Donna and Charles and Margaret. And anyway, I'm the guy with the flower in my pocket. Is that a flower or a handkerchief? No. Anyway, I went and met with the casting director, Michael Chenich, over at Universal to work a small part in Crackers with Donald Sutherland and Sean Penn, Wallace Shawn, and is it Jack Warden? Jack Alberts. Jack Warden. There I am in Johnny Dangerously, which took place after Crackers. Johnny Dangerously was really fun to work on. Amy Heckerling directing, Michael Keaton, and got to hang out and have a really great time chatting with Joe Piscopo, and being side by side, rubbing elbows with Maureen Stapleton was really fantastic because she's a legend in theater especially. And I got to be friends with Dom DeLuise that day we're shooting, and Dom became an advocate of my comedy work and would bring me in to warm up audiences for him on Candid Camera and different projects, and he introduced me to Anne Bancroft and Mel Brooks. So that was a really fun shoot to be on.
So you did finally get to talk to Mel Brooks.
Yes, I finally. Well, I actually auditioned for him. My Marx Brothers team came in on Robin Hood, Men in Tights, which I reminded him of later on. And turns out Dom's request for more money caused the Marx Brothers team to be cut from that banquet scene that he wanted them in Robin Hood. So Dom took the money that would have hired my team. Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, I almost strangled him. But I have a story about this Johnny Dangerously because I was, still a starving actor and working sporadically. I'd work parking cars as a valet, or cooking or catering, and I actually got the job as a waiter for the catering company that did the wrap party for Johnny Dangerously. So there I was at 20th Century Fox, serving hors d'oeuvres and drinks to the cast and crew that I had worked with on the film. And when I gave Michael Keaton and Amy Heckerling their drinks, Michael Keaton leaned over to Amy and said, "Well, wasn't he in the film?"
Now, Johnny Dangerously is one of Michael's favorite movies.
Oh, that's good. He worked his tail off on that, and he had a lot of fun. You could tell it was, it was originally a musical.
I did not know that.
At that rap party, they showed most of the musical numbers, and I see why they were cut.
Okay.
Not everyone could sing, although they kept Mary Lou Henner's number in, but and Maureen Stapleton's number, well, it was like an old vaudeville number, was fantastic, but Michael and Joe, they were good, but it kind of, I guess it didn't work.
So we'll go on. We could only fit so many of the pictures in the album to keep it going. So let's see.
So in after Johnny Dangerously, let's see, Crackers. What else I work on? I had some support roles on TV shows like Max Headroom and Dallas, Divorce Court. And this is I went. My agent got me in. Apparently, to set this up for a second, Chris Penn, Sean Penn's younger brother, met Clint Eastwood at a party, and Chris said, "I want to work with you." And Clint said, "Sure, I'll send you a script for my next project." And he sent him Pale Rider, and offered Chris the part of Eddie Conway, Spider's son. And if you're familiar with that Western, Pale Rider,
mm-hmm.
And Chris threw it back and said, "I don't want to play a good guy. I want to play a bad guy." So they put Chris in LaHood's son's role, the guy who attempts to rape Sidney Penny's character, and so the guy Chuck LaFont, who's in this picture here, moved up to the role of Eddie. He was originally Teddy, and the role of Teddy had come open. And my agent got me in to read for Teddy, and I knocked it out of the park. I was able to cry on cue and do well, and got cast. And it was really great to be on location and work with Clint for 4 or 6 weeks, however long we were in Idaho.
For Pale Rider, didn't you guys go out in the middle of nowhere, and then they built this set, like, just literally in the middle of nowhere?
We froze our asses off. I think it was Bruce Surtees, the cinematographer or the art director. Someone talked Clint into building the set on the top of a mountain in this national forest outside of Ketchum, Sun Valley, Idaho. And everywhere Bruce would put his camera, he'd have this breathtaking view. It would be the White Cloud Mountains this way, and this way it'd be the Sawtooth Mountains, and over here it'd be the Salmon River Mountains. It was just a really great visual treat wherever he put his camera to shoot the new town that was being built. Unfortunately, there was no protection, and the wind would come in, and we were shooting at the end of October into November, and it was freezing. It was often with a wind chill factor 10 below. So the actors, most of the time, we were huddled around these heaters and would never want to, Clint once we were at the set and was like, "No, we're not moving. We're not moving."
Now you know what it's like to live in Illinois.
So, I mean, there's very few, like, good Westerns from the 80s. Maybe that and Silverado. Like, I don't really remember any other.
And it was made. They were both made about the same year. I remember several of the actors, cowboys on Pale Rider, would go down to, I think it was Utah, to shoot Silverado with Costner and company. Was it Charlie Hallahan? I remember there were a couple actors who made it into both movies, which is kind of cool. And I love Silverado too. I hadn't seen Pale Rider on the big screen until last year, since its release back in, what was it, '85. Mm-hmm. And it really looks good. It was gorgeous. I still see some very interesting things that you can look for if you have it on DVD digitally, you may want to see this. The scene where my character's dad is being shot from head to toe by the bad guys. It took us 3 days to shoot that scene because they, had to keep going back and putting him in fresh wardrobe if we were getting it from another angle, because the bullet shots and the boots and the everywhere in between the eyes and all. So the first day we had a blizzard. The second day we were in sunshine, and on the third day we had to recreate snow. They brought in oil-based snow machine. So when you see these quick cuts, if you look very closely, when it cuts over to Brother and I at the Mercantile screaming, we're in a blizzard. When it cuts back to Chuck my dad, you see Spider being shot, he's in sunshine. And then when we finally make it to the body, the snow, when Hamilton is walking through the snow picks up in clumps and flies with the wind, and snow doesn't act like that, as you know from being in the Midwest. So look closely and you can see the quick edits. The editing really goes by so quick, most people probably don't register that there's blizzard, then sunshine, then fake snow. So it's pretty fun. Also, if you going back to Twilight Zone movie, there's one frame that George Miller put in when John Lithgow's character opens the shade of the window and the monster is right there at the window. There's one frame of his eyes popping out of his head.
Like this subliminal edit that they had to add in there.
That's right, because that was the day I was going to have lunch with John, and they called him back to do the special effect. I was like, no. So John says, well, we'll do it tomorrow. And so the next day, I even had my acting coach come visit me on set. We were going to have lunch with John, and John's voice was gone because he had been screaming so much. So he said, I better not. I've got, or maybe John was just making excuses, didn't want to have lunch with me. I don't know.
So let's see.
There's my friend Steve Spielberg. Steve and I. I'm not sure which one I am, but like I mentioned, I used to work at Universal Studios, playing Stan Laurel and Groucho Marx and Charlie Chaplin, among other characters. And one day we did a employee handshake, both Universal employees going down the hill and Hanna-Barbera's employees coming up the hill. We all held hands, and Steven was the link between us all. And Steve happened to do this photo. He was a big fan of Laurel and Hardy and did this photo for us. As you can see, Steven signed that for me.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me see here. Okay, so we're gonna get back to this here. We'll come back to the Future photos.
Okay.
Here after we do have some discussion. First, I have a question for you. You did some voice work. In 1987, you did Max Headroom. What did you do in Max Headroom?
That was on camera. That wasn't voice work. That was.
Oh, okay.
I worked with Jeffrey Tambor in the newspaper control room. It was a very small support role that I think mostly got cut out. But it was a skaters, slakers. I forget the name of the episode. It was really fun to work there with Matthew and Jeffrey. It was great because Jeffrey Tambor, who just got the Golden Globe.
Yes, he did. Well deserved.
He went to San Francisco State as well, and we had the same professor. And we got, as it turned out, the line producer from Max Headroom had the same professor, and it was really great because we all three would do imitations of this professor and make each other laugh. It was a lot of fun. Fun to be on Max Headroom.
So the patriarch of the Bluth family and the Bluth family banana empire, you got to work with him. That's pretty cool. That's really pretty cool. What do you have? What do you have next, Glenn?
Well, more importantly, you co-starred with Max Headroom on 2 separate projects. Did you realize that?
Do tell.
He was also in Back to the Future 2.
Oh, of course, yeah, in the Cafe 80s.
Yes, there you go.
Duh.
Not many people have co-starred with Max Headroom on 2 separate occasions.
Well, Whoa, hot, baby.
Do you know who
You know,
I am?
people are pounding at my door to get me to work again, just because of that credit.
So we'll come back
To the voice work.
Yeah, well, you did voice work for both Heathers and Loverboy, correct?
Yes, among others. IMDb won't give me credit for a bunch because those casts are closed or whatever. But I worked on quite a few films. I was with a really great looping group called Custom Looping. Lee French, who came out of the committee, headed us up, and there were people like Christopher Guest's brother Nick Guest and Lorraine Newman's sister Tracy Newman and Archie Hahn, and really fantastic talent, improvisers and such, comedians and actors in a group. To give the layman an idea of what looping is, if you look at a TV show or a film, the extras or other support players aren't always on microphone. So when they go into the studio, you need to often give them voices if their mouths are moving. So the improvisers would go in, see what's going on, and try to put words in those mouths and improvise and come up with bits and such to verbally go in. Now, when I was doing my ADR, my automated dialogue replacement, my lines for Pale Rider, the loop group that I worked with came in to do the background voices, and Lee looked at me and says, "Oh, you're not working today." I said, "No, I'm doing my own lines." And she was like, "You are?" "Oh." And I remember that Billy McWilliams, the guy who made Ned Beatty's character squeal in Deliverance.
Oh, wow.
He had come in to do some cowboys, and had brought his dog. He had one of those Spuds McKenzie terriers that was running around the studio while we were trying to record, and Clint kept saying, "Hey, Billy, your dog's got to pee." It was very funny. I guess you had to be there. Anyway, we were just coming back from lunch, and Chuck, who played my brother, and I, we were messing around on microphone doing different animal noises, you know, just doing different animal noises, messing around, and we hadn't noticed Clint had come back and was listening to us and watching, and we immediately clammed up when we saw Clint, and he said, "No, you guys go back and let's record this," he said back to the booth, and so we recorded a bunch of animal noises for it. So if you, this is your 80s trivia at its finest. If you see at the beginning of Pale Rider, there's a goat that goes down the side of a mountain during the opening credits, and that's my goat. That's me.
I've been racking my brain. I've been racking my brain for the last 2 minutes to try to figure out what we just talked about Nick Guest in, but it was Christmas Vacation. Nick Guest was the neighbor in Christmas Vacation. Todd.
Right. He's a great guy.
Marco.
Yeah, I've just been sitting here like, we just talked about Nick Guest. And that's something that not many people have probably said in their life, but that's yeah. So
synchronicity. Woo.
So was that the type of voiceover work you did then in in Heathers and Loverboy?
Yeah, pretty much. There was one film. Oh, what was that? Hot. Oh, it was so bad. Bronson Pinchot was in it. Resort, Hot Resort.
Hot Resort, yeah, 1985.
And the producers were so cheap they wouldn't bring an actor out from the East Coast to do this line that they had technical difficulties with. And they figured my voice was close enough to this guy, and it's a scene where making love in a VW Bug or something, and I filled in and did a scripted line for a guy. My voice sounded nothing like this guy. So when you watch Hot Resort and you hear this button for a joke in the film, and his voice suddenly changes, that's my voice.
Don't be ridiculous.
There was a TV film that Andy Griffith starred in.
Well, now you have my attention.
Crime of Innocence, and he played a judge that sent these girls who had they had gone out partying, didn't come home till after midnight, and where they were from in the Midwest, the judge had the, and it's based on a true story, the judge had the option of putting them in jail overnight, and he did. He was in a bad mood, put those girls in jail overnight, and the guards ended up raping them.
Oh my God.
Yeah, based on a true story. Hey, great. And so going into the jail, they didn't have these inmates mic'd. So I remember a couple inmates, one was a black guy, and I was like, hey, bring that girl over here.
Was there any Asian people too? Maybe we could do that stereotype as well. No, I'm sorry.
I do not know if I can do Asian. No. Years of characters and imitations. Yeah, so it was really a wild job. It's like, my God, people are paying me to have this kind of fun and silliness. It's truly a lovely blessing.
All I want to know is that in Loverboy, you had your voice ask for extra anchovies at some point.
I'll get back to you on that.
What about the voice of the robot? Is that a specific person? Do you know?
You got me. I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
Loverboy is not a very good movie.
No, it's pretty bad, but it's.
Oh, and let's see, what other classics did I work on? Meet the Applegates.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, some really big ones. It was good to work. That's all.
Yeah. So, when I knew your name, and it was because of Back to the Future.
But it's interesting. I in about '86 auditioned for a commercial for Cherry Coke for Stan Dragati. Stan Dragati was already a feature producer, and he was directing this Cherry Coke commercial. So it must have been big budget. And I went in and got the role of a greaser, and it was a takeoff on Back to the Future.
Oh, cool.
And if you look online on YouTube, I think it's there. If you put in Cherry Coke, Stan Dragati, or Back to the Future, and so it's kind of ironic. And Victoria Jackson is in it. It was the first of two commercials I ended up doing with Victoria. I'm in a Mitsubishi truck commercial. If you look real hard, you might find it somewhere. Soak it up, guys. That I got. In fact, with my audition, I improvised a line that they used as the tagline on the commercial. I think they like us. So it's kind of ironic. So I'm working at Universal in between film and TV gigs. Somewhere in there, I did guest starred on Scarecrow and Mrs. King, and
by the way, another one of my favorites.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, also, I just wanted to ask real quick: are we sure it was Cherry Coke and not New Coke? I just want to double check.
It was. Yeah, he went back to the '50s and tried to Cherry Coke. I got to take this back to the '80s.
Okay.
Time machine. Yeah, New Coke is the yet to come.
It'll come back. It'll come back. Everything comes back eventually.
Yeah. I'm hoping Pepsi releases that bottle we used in Back to the Future.
Oh, wow.
So this would be the year to do it, but
it would be. I'm probably giving them inspiration here. I should have kept my lips in. So I'm working up at Universal Studios. The guy who helped me get the job there is Stan Laurel, who actually helped me get the audition at least. Calls me up because he's a look-alike agent. And he says, "Do you know who Crispin Glover is?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. I worked with Crispin on a film at the American Film Institute, a film with Dan O'Herlihy back in '83, the year before he even got the Back to the Future film." And I thought Crispin was a fascinating actor, and I tried to stay in touch. And it turned out they were looking for a photo double stand-in for him. And he wasn't allowed to say what project it was, and so on. So I said, "Get me in there," and I met with the ADs, and I eventually met with casting, and then started doing fittings for makeup, prosthetics, and then did a screen test for Zemeckis and Dean Cundey. And then I learned that Crispin wasn't coming back, which I could not fathom. I did not. I said, you can't really have this character without the man who created it. And he was brilliant in the first film. But needless to say, he didn't come back. He had apparently shot himself in the foot with contract negotiations demanding script control and the same money as Michael J. Fox and other things. So I ended up kind of taking over the role, though they had cut him down so much to not bring attention that he wasn't there. Go figure. So that's where these pictures come in.
Yeah. So while we're loading those, so you had worked with Crispin. Did you have a good experience with him?
Oh yeah, he had a really quirky, wonderful timing and great Italian boots. I remember his boots were very cool. So here I am in the young George makeup because they had to get these scenes of knocking Biff out and kissing Lorraine on the dance floor of the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. They had to get them from different angles again. But they kept me out of focus or in the background enough so you couldn't really tell it wasn't Crispin, but it looks pretty close.
So what all did they do? Did they do nose stuff and chin stuff, or what all did they do?
Yeah, pretty much prosthetic like mask and a wig. And, you know, most people you can see there, Michael's like standoffish and going, what the heck? Anyway, I didn't know that they didn't have Crispin's permission, and of course he ended up suing and then settling out of court, and then the Screen Actors Guild made a rule that a producer can't make another actor look like another actor without his permission, which is good common sense. So,
I remember that.
but it was very exciting for me to be on this film set because I got to hang out with you know, Michael and Billy Zane and Leah and Tom, and you know, it was really a fantastic group of talent to be rubbing elbows with. Zemeckis was just a dream to work with, and I eventually got to know Chris Lloyd, so it was very exciting for me. And even though I suffered a great deal of how shall I say, well, being in the makeup chair for 3.5 to 4 hours just to get ready to be on set, and then as this old age makeup, and this old age makeup being hung upside down for 20 hours sometimes, it was a bit of a pain. But ultimately, you know, the payoff has been being a part of the films, and here's a nice behind the scenes shot. In fact, you guys, this is from a scene or stuff that was cut, you know, in the McFly kitchen. I'm getting into a body cast here that rotated me, and George actually got to rotate his axis up for pizza, but that was and then there was silence.
I had a question about the set itself, because you saw all these gadgets, like young Marty, or Marty's son, had the glasses. There was an automatic TV that came down. There's an automatic food thing. There was the pizza hydrator. Was there other gadgets that were just all around the set that weren't even in the movie, or how did that work?
Oh yeah. That entire set was art directed beyond belief. There were so many gadgets and details and things. It was really thrilling to be on it. I was like, this is just amazing. And the concept, like here, you can see the device that comes down from the ceiling that was growing fresh fruit and vegetables from. Mm-hmm. You know, they were hoping, and oh, you can see here, this is my hang-in.
Okay.
Yeah, taking a little break from being hung upside down there. It was really exciting to be on such a ambitious view into the future. The detail of Hill Valley of the future, both the neighborhood and downtown, the courthouse square. Really fun to be on those sets. Here's where I was actually being rotated that didn't make it to the film. And I think maybe partly because after being put in the body cast, they had to put the costume on around me. It made me look too bulky or something. Or it just didn't match because she had served the pizza on the floor. I'm not sure, but rotating the axis, it wasn't that important to the story, so they cut it. You can find it in the bonus materials. But I came up with little bits like I did my golf swing saying, 4!
Okay. Because in the movie you heard it playing golf again, right?
That's right. A car had fallen out of the sky and scared him while he was playing golf. And then, you know, the little line where I say, how's Granddad's little pumpkin to Marlene, to, you know, Michael as Marlene at the front door. My eye line was right with his orange hot pants, and they made his butt look like a pumpkin. So how's Granddad's little pumpkin made perfect sense.
So I'm going to go through some other pictures that we have, and then we'll get back to some Back to the Future questions.
Okay.
So we have one here. I'm sorry.
The next one looked like with Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah, this is from Diagnosis Murder.
Yeah, and Dick was very close friends with Stan Laurel, and so we were both doing our Stan Laurel impression for the camera there. And I just had a dream day working on that shoot on his show because he opened up to me. I brought to the set a sweater, an alpaca sweater I had with the Dick Van Dyke label, and he had forgotten that he had lent these people his name to make these sweaters. He said he had some in storage somewhere, but he hadn't. So it sort of broke the ice, and we started talking about Stanley and his wonderful times with Buster Keaton, and it really was a treat. Dick was just a gem to work with and hang out with. And also, he was my childhood hero. You know, seeing Mary Poppins when I was a kid.
Absolutely.
I'm going to grow up and be you. You know, I said that.
I'm going to clean chimneys just like you.
When I said that to him, he kind of was like, nice.
Okay. So let's talk about it. So what you
can't not talk about it.
Yeah. So what you can't see when I'm normally on is I'm wearing my Kelly Kapowski T-shirt. However, right when I got to where we're recording, I wanted to punch myself in the face because I have a Zack Attack reunion T-shirt that is one of my favorite T-shirts, and you were in the Zack Attack episode.
Yeah, the rockumentary.
Yes, okay, with Casey Kasem.
Yes, and I'm still pissed at Casey.
Oh, well, do say.
Well, if you know the episode,
I do.
I'm Screech's guru, the high geek, and I give him advice how to make happiness in his life again. Move to the beach and marry a cheerleader. And I had this bit where I had a fez on, and I take out of the fez the magic retainer. Well, Casey Kasem is Muslim, and he thought my bit with the fez was disrespectful. Really? So the producers told me not to use the fez. And it was very funny. It was a nice reveal, and it was in comedy, but Casey shot me in the foot there.
Now, I'm guessing you did not spend a lot of time with Dustin Diamond on this shoot.
I did. Yeah, I hung out with him somewhat. I spent a lot of time with his dad, too, who I understood kind of messed him up.
That's what the Lifetime movie taught me, was that his dad messed him up. Did you watch that movie?
Uh-huh.
Hello?
I think his dad... Hello?
I'm sorry, I lost you for a second. You were saying about his father?
Yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. I'm sorry to hear that he violated the Coogan law and took a bunch of his money or whatever he did.
We actually had Keith Coogan on our episode, and we went into a lot about the Coogan law. So I'm now an expert in the Coogan law based on that episode.
Far out. Kids need to be protected there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
My friend, I was friends when I was little with Nisa Jones, who was Buffy on Family Affair, and she was so pissed that her mom and her brother were taking trips on her money and so on and so forth, and she wanted out of showbiz. She had been asked to play Reagan in Exorcist.
Oh, wow.
Would have made it a completely different film, although Linda was fine in it. But Anissa, she'd had enough when I knew her, and she was only 12 at that point.
So let's see here.
There's Teddy Conway from Pale Rider.
Yep. Okay, so we have some of the reunion pictures.
Yeah, this was just last year in Dayton, Ohio. The DeLorean owners do regular conventions, and I, at this one, in fact, was MC. And we got, as you can see next to me, Harry Waters Jr., Marvin Berry, and Chris Lloyd, and beautiful Claudia Wells, and Bob Gale, who wrote the 3 movies with Bob Zemeckis.
Yep.
Andrew Probert, who was the storyboard artist, who does a great PowerPoint presentation on how Marty, the scene that was cut, on how Marty originally got back from the 50s, that you have to see if you come on my cruise. the Back to the Future cruise to end Parkinson's. He'll be on that, doing that. That's really a fantastic behind the scenes. And then there's Don Fullilove, who is Goldie Wilson.
Yes, so Don Fullilove is been one of my co-hosts, Michael's dream guests, because he loves Goldie Wilson. So me and Don have traded tweets back and forth as I try to make my co-host dream come true. So if you have any interaction with Don Fullilove, recommend this podcast.
I will. Don's a blast. He's a sweetie. He's a pilot. He loves flying planes, and he's a bass player. He's a musician. He's and a great actor. A great guy.
Yeah, he does a lot of the Pixar movies. So yes, that is one of my co-host dream guests. So yeah, if you talk to Don,
yeah,
throw our name out there.
I will.
That would be awesome. I said we've exchanged tweets. So yeah, anything you can do to make Michael's dream come true as you are making my dream come true would be appreciated. So
this is from the reunion in '08 at a show in Hollywood, and Michael showed up and hung out with us. There's Frances Lee McCain, who played Stella Baines, Lorraine's mom. Down with his poodle is Mark McClure. It was Jimmy Olsen in the Superman movies. He was Dave McFly. And of course, Leah and Michael and Chris and Claudia again, and James Tolkien, James has got so many fantastic stories of movies like Serpico and Top Gun and things that he's been in. He'd be a great person to have on your show, too.
Oh, wow, that'd be really cool.
Awesome.
So that's the new Beverly, or is that the old Beverly? Glenn?
I'm here.
Okay.
Jeffrey?
And originally during the shooting of Back to the Future Part 2, I showed up on the set at 3 in the morning. My makeup guy, Mike Mills, who was the lead foreman on Beetlejuice, said he'd introduce me to Chris because I've always been a big fan of Chris's. And at 3, 4 in the morning, when I finally got to meet Chris, I was like, tongue-tied. Hi, it's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. And we stood there and stared at each other for a while. And I was like, okay, gotta go. Bye. So finally, many years later, and this was just a few years ago there in Beverly Hills, got to hang out with Chris and chat with him. And we've done now events like London Comic Con and like that show with the DeLorean owners, and I've visited him in his hometown, and he's a great guy. In fact, I've done two other films with Chris in recent years. We did a film called The Chateau Moreau, and then just last year we shot a film called The Boat Builder. And it's always great to hang out with Chris.
So you went from not knowing him at all to pretty close.
We're buddies now. We're like, well...
Yeah, whatever. That's really cool. Like, he's a link between tons of 80s movies, like Mr. Mom and all that. I mean, everything. He's fantastic. One of my friends, an early supporter of the show, Aaron S., he went and met him at some festival, and his whole life he really wanted to be a scientist, and like he works at the lab. He's at our local hospital, and he said he points to directly like experiencing Back to the Future, and eventually he told Christopher Lloyd all about it. So it's kind of cool that Dick Van Dyke, he helped you decide what you wanted to do, and Christopher Lloyd in this movie helped him become work in this lab in this hospital. So it's kind of cool.
Well, the story that Chris Lloyd was at the time that he got the script of Back to the Future was not interested in doing anything in Hollywood. He wanted to be a stage actor on Broadway, and he threw the script in the garbage. Did you ever hear that?
So he was just I never even heard it at all. So he was just like, what is this sci-fi teen garbage? I'm done.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it. He wanted to do this show. I think it was with Colleen Dewhurst off Broadway or something, and his girlfriend, unbeknownst to him at the time, had taken the script out of the garbage and set it aside. A month or so later, Colleen Dewhurst had to postpone the show because she got sick, and Chris was like, "What do we do now?" And the girlfriend put the Back to the Future script in front of him and said, "How about this?" Meanwhile, Gale and Zemeckis were looking at John Lithgow and Jeff Goldblum for Doc Brown.
I'm very happy that that happened, because there would be no Doc Brown in my world without Chris.
Yeah, I mean, my God, he was fantastic in that role. It would have been a completely different animal, you know, say Eric Stoltz and John
Yeah.
Lithgow or Chuck.
Absolutely.
Oh,
So
this
this is from Corked.
Yes, this has now become a cult film. I don't think you can stream it anymore, which is unfortunate because it was a delightful little film. It's low-budget indie where I play an obsessive-compulsive winemaker, and it's a mockumentary a la Christopher Guest movies called Corked. And I know it's available in some libraries up here in Northern California, but if you find it, it's really delightful. It's corny and silly and a lot of fun. I enjoy a glass of wine while watching it.
Okay, let's move on.
So I mentioned that I do different characters. So I put a Three Stooges team together, and Iggy Pop's girlfriend called me up to surprise him after his show at the Warfield when he turned 60 a few years ago. And here I am with my Stooges team up north, presenting Iggy with his birthday cake.
In true Three Stooges fashion, did you then put it in his face?
We came close.
Okay.
It's a little intimidating because he's a punk, and the punk probably would have kicked my ass.
That's true. That's true.
But it was very funny. He had just come off stage and was dripping in sweat and was, really high from the performance. And he saw us with the cake and stuff, and he said, "Oh, clowns!" And I was like, "No, we're Stooges, you idiot!" Anyway, it was apropos, and it was great. I actually had a nice conversation with him. He's a sweetie. And that's another shot of me in character from Corked. And there as Stan Laurel at the International Laurel and Hardy Fan Club convention a few years ago in Manchester, New Hampshire, the Sons of the Desert. And Jamie, my Oliver Hardy there, is actually out of Florida.
Awesome.
Very talented man. And we performed in doing vaudeville acts and on this cruise and did song and dance and sketches. Recreated a radio show that Laurel and Hardy did with Lucille Ball and Edgar Kennedy. It was really fun. The fans, when you go to something like this where the fans are really hardcore, whether it's Laurel and Hardy or Back to the Future, whatever, it's always like you're being scrutinized. You want to do everything just right, and so trying to get things perfect.
Michael?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little pressure, but it's ultimately been rewarding.
That's good.
Awesome. And we have...
from my perspective, it seems like you have tons of fun. I mean, how many people get to have that much fun at their job? That's pretty cool.
So we have our final picture here, and then we can discuss some of that.
You guys froze on my end. I didn't hear the question.
Okay.
So we have our final picture here, and then we'll discuss some things here.
In recent years, about 6 years ago, I played Mark Twain in a yet-to-be-released movie. It still needs to have some more pickup shots done, and the funding, I guess, hasn't come through, or things get in the way, like a little war in Israel, where I shot in Israel playing Mark Twain in his trip in 1867 to Europe and the Holy Land.
Wow.
And in recent years, I've been playing Twain, and this is a shot of me in character there.
Awesome. So one of the things Michael just said, I think when we froze, is that it seems like you find things that you're going to have fun with to do. Like everything that we just went through are different things that are niche things but you seem to have so much fun doing them. How do you find things that, like, not a lot of people get to have fun at what they do?
Well, I love life. I love having fun. People that are friends of mine on Facebook who knew me when I was a kid or in junior high or high school often remark about the silly shit I did back then. And I love living history. I love vaudeville and burlesque and comedy, especially. And my wife knows that I'm silly. I'm silly in my sleep, she says. And to me, it's celebrating life. And then if I can't have fun, I don't really want to do it. I've had a few projects where it was like a total downer, and it's like, get me out of here.
Right.
And I'll still try to make fun out of it, or at least milk the money out of it. I don't know. If I can then go buy a fun time.
My wife tries to kill me in my sleep, I think. So, I mean, it's good that your wife finds you silly in your sleep. Well, that's awesome. So, you got the Back to the Future role, which obviously is still something that you still have fun with to this day with all the conventions. And you got it almost based off of, looking like someone and being in the business. So, I mean, what happenstance that was, but yet you've made so much out of it, which is awesome.
Okay. I love it. I kind of pinched myself the first time I went over to England to be in one of their Comic-Cons there, and I had a line almost all day, and I was like, wow, I mean, this is really unique and fun. Rather than just signing autographs and doing pictures, I also joke with people. I make balloons
Absolutely.
for children. I love people and interactions. When I worked at Universal Studios, I learned how to greet in 15 different languages because the characters I was portraying are iconic internationally, and people associate good times in their life or fun with those characters, and it's been a real gift, and I knock on wood and am happy I've had these blessings.
Yeah, I mean, we watch and we've talked to a lot of people, and it's just some people just don't, understand like the situation they've been put in, and it seems like not only do you understand with it, you make the best out of it, which is for my, that's awesome, and I hope that you can someday hit the Saved by the Bell circuit. So then maybe I can I can greet you on that as well.
Okay.
So you briefly mentioned a cruise. Now, 2015, in the first 3 weeks of 2015, there have been more Back to the Future memes than could possibly ever have been imagined. As Illinoisans and lifelong Cub fans, Michael and myself have been looking forward to this year for a long time.
There's that part in Back to the Future.
I think we froze here for a second here.
There you go.
There you are.
So yes, yeah, and I have my little display here for the cruise. Let's see. Can you see this?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh, I want that.
What's going on is that we came up with the idea that there's been a Star Trek cruise and a Doctor Who cruise and cruise to the edge for prog rockers. Now there's a cruise to the 80s this year.
Yes.
And it was like, why isn't there a Back to the Future cruise, and why can't we make it a fundraiser for Michael J. Fox's Team Fox, the Parkinson's Research Foundation? So that's what we're trying to do. And I enlisted a lot of the people we've been talking about: Don Fullilove, Harry Waters Jr., Francis Lee McCain, Andrew Probert, I believe Dean Cundy is still with us, and Mark McClure. We're hoping still to hear that maybe Chris Lloyd's coming on board, and we haven't heard back officially from Michael J. Fox yet. So we're hoping that we do something wonderful like this for the fans and raise money for the cause. And
so there's going to be a dance on the cruise.
Yeah, there's going to be an Enchantment Under the Sea dance. Oh, God. Harry will be singing Earth Angel, and Mark and I are trying to get our schedules together to rehearse so we can play all the songs from the movie. And I've written Huey Lewis in the News. I'm reaching out to wherever I can to see who I can get on board. And I know it's still in development, and it's only 9 months away, so I'm a little nervous.
Well, we will definitely continue to promote that. I think we froze real quick. So 2015, we mentioned like the Back to the Future memes are ridiculous, but as two Illinoisans and lifelong Cub fans, this is the year that Michael and I have been waiting for since 1989, because this is the year the Cubs are going to win the World Series. We've been told,
of course,
for so many years.
The Sporting News says the Cubs are going to win the World Series, Glenn.
So this is the year. This is the year.
Yeah, I've read the almanac.
Yeah, it's the almanac.
Gray's Sports Almanac says this is the year. But what an awesome cause. We are going to continue to promote that on our Facebook page and also on our podcast.
That's very cool.
I would love to go, so I am going to talk to my wife when she's does not have all of her faculties, and see what I can do about getting us aboard. I think that'd be such a great week.
What about at night? I'm sorry. What about
I'm
trying to smother you, Glenn? Then you can wake her up and say, "Hey, we want to go on that cruise." Sorry.
I thought I'd add that I plan to bring all these characters on board that I play. I plan to have Charlie Chaplin and Groucho Marx and Lobster Man do a cameo somewhere on the cruise. Other surprises undoubtedly will be taking place, so it'll be definitely worth it, on top of being on the world's largest cruise ship.
That sounds awesome. We encourage our listeners and viewers to definitely look into this. Like I said, it's on our Facebook page. We will continue to promote it. And Jeffrey, we'd love to have you back sometime.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
When we're not doing interviews, Jeffrey, what we normally do is we take an 80s movie and we review it and just kind of go through it step by step. So we'd love to just have you, if you ever want to come back, just kind of as a guest reviewing a movie with us.
Love it. Sure.
So maybe as the cruise gets closer, we can give you a ring and you can definitely come back to promote it. Is there anything else you want to say before we sign off, Jeffrey?
It's amazing to be able to do this from my home and reach out to the whole world. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Have you
Lawrence.
done a podcast before?
I haven't done a podcast like that. I've done maybe just an audio radio type thing, but this is fun. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you reaching out to us. You truly have no idea the kind of high that we've been on for a few days by you just reaching out to us. So we appreciate that so much, and we hope that you will be able to come back. Now, Jeffrey, we end every show with two simple words, and that is stay awesome. And so tonight we'd like you to sign us out by just telling us to stay awesome.
Easily done. Stay awesome!
Awesome. Thank you, Jeffrey.